Welcome, ghosts and ghouls, to Radio in Motion's Halloween Spooktacular. Tonight we'll count down the spookiest hits of all time. Our first treacherous track is a devilish tune coming to us from the movie Killer Clowns from Outer Space. But beware, these clowns don't want to make you laugh, and their cotton candy is certainly a killer. Listen if you dare. Hey everyone, welcome back to my Halloween episode of Radio in Motion. As you can see, I certainly enjoy Halloween, and I hope you do too. But a lot of the times, being from the States, I tend to get, it's an American holiday, and it's your fault. You brought it here. Well, that's not necessarily true. Like any holiday, it's sort of an amalgamation of a lot of different holidays. And like anything, just like Christmas, which is really the winter solstice, that's why they bring in a tree. They're there to try and protect what's left of life and spring as the seasons change. So a lot of times in the past, yes, some of them were pagan rituals, and again, it was about the seasons. So one of the biggest ones, sort of the original Halloween before it became an amalgamation of other celebrations, is really Samhain. And Samhain is essentially the beginning of fall, the beginning of the cold times, and, welcoming in the harvest. Again, people used to live their lives around the crops and the seasons and the food and prosperity. And another one, and an interesting one, sort of where spirits come into it, is that, and now this is, again, in the northern hemisphere, obviously it's a different time of year. It's autumn, it's fall, whereas obviously here it's spring in Australia. But you have to understand, a lot of the immigrants that came from Europe and the old world, Ireland and Wales and all those countries, brought their traditions with them. And so of course they brought it with that same time of year. So in autumn, supposedly, and on Halloween, it is when the veil of the night is at its thinnest, and spirits can contact people. And, well, that's where you get your ghosts and ghouls sort of crossing over. Now, dressing up is always an interesting one to me. And now that one came from a bit of an Irish lore, which was called Guiesing. Now, essentially, the children would dress up and do a show for a treat. Now, the term trick-or-treat hadn't necessarily come in at that point. That happened later in the U.S., more around the 1920s when the actual phrase trick-or-treat started to take off. But one of my most favorite, and people do often ask about this one, is where did jack-o'-lanterns come from? And I always think that's an interesting one. And that one certainly has its roots in Ireland, where people would carve faces actually into turnips and light them with a candle. Obviously, turnips are what they had at the time. When the Irish immigrants started to arrive to the U.S., well, they began carving pumpkins because pumpkins were native to the region, so that makes sense, so they switched to pumpkins. But essentially, what is a jack-o'-lantern? Who's this Jack fella? Well, apparently, when Jack died, who is Jack? I'll tell you that in a moment. Well, apparently, when Jack died, God didn't allow him into heaven, and the devil didn't let him into hell. So Jack was sentenced to roam the earth for eternity. Now, where is Jack? And where did he come from? Well, that's an easy one. The story of Stingy Jack and the birth of the jack-o'-lantern. So that's one of my favorites, and I'll share you with that tonight. So grab a warm beer and settle into a cozy nook, and let's journey back to old Ireland, where our tale unfolds. On a chilly night, in a quaint Irish village, a notorious drunkard named Stingy Jack resided. His infamy for trickery resonated through the twisted alleys and dimly lit pubs. Even the devil heard whispers of his name. On one fateful night, the devil's burning curiosity drew him up from the dark, fiery depths to engage with Jack. Being a wily rogue with a taste for mischief, Jack invited the devil for a pint at a local pub. They savored the bitter ale as the moon climbed higher in the night sky. But when the bill arrived, Stingy Jack, with a twinkle and deceit in his eyes, convinced the devil to morph into a shiny coin for payment. However, instead of settling the bill, Jack pocketed the coin next to a silver cross, trapping the devil forever. After an agonizing stint in Jack's pocket, the devil was finally freed under the condition that he would leave Jack untouched for a year. With no other choice, the devil begrudgingly agreed. As seasons changed and the leaves turned, a year swiftly flew by, and the devil emerged from the shadows. Jack cleverly pursued the devil and persuaded him to climb a gnarled old tree for a juicy crimson apple. Once he ascended, Jack swiftly etched a cross into the old bark, trapping the devil once more. This time, with a voice trembling with rage and despair, the devil vowed to leave Jack untouched for 10 more years. Yet fate had other plans, and Jack found himself facing death soon after. Heaven denied Jack entry for his sinful and mischievous life, and hell, still bound by the devil's vow, reluctantly did the same. Yet, with a mocking gesture, the devil tossed Jack a single burning ember from the fiery pits to light his way through the eternal darkness. With the flicker of his cunning, Jack hollowed out an old turnip, placing the ember within, and began his endless roaming of earth, marking the inception of the jack-o'-lantern. Now, you gotta love those stories. So remember, when you think, oh, Halloween, it's just an American thing, it's certainly much older than that, in the old world. And, well, when you carve a jack-o'-lantern, you might think of Jack, who might still be wandering the earth. And maybe the devil did get the last laugh. All right, more great devilish tunes up next after a word from our sponsors.